What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In this video today we're going to take a look at FastHTML, which is a web framework that allows us to build websites and web applications purely in Python. So no HTML, no CSS, no JavaScript. Let us get right into it. Alright, so the goal of this video today is to explore FastHTML and to see how we can build basic web pages and web applications with it. Again, no CSS, no HTML, no JavaScript involved, just pure Python. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to install the package or the library or the framework. And for this, we're going to open up the command line and we're going to type pip or pip3 install. And now the package name is not FastHTML, it's actually Python-FastHTML. So this is the package that you need to install here. And once you have this, the import convention or the way they do it in the tutorial is to say from FastHTML import common as FH. This is how they do it. So I assume this is now the framework convention here. And the basic workflow is quite simple. Similar to Flask, what we do is we create an application, we create some routes, and then we serve the application. So the most basic web page that we can build with this is we can say app and RT, which is route. So this is a decorator for our functions. App and route are equal to fh.fastapp. And here now we just say live equals true, which is similar to Flask's debug equals true. So we don't have to constantly restart the server if we make changes. And then I can just have a basic RT. So at RT, and then I provide slash here as the URL pattern. And the function could be, for example, index. And here I just return a basic paragraph fh.p, hello world, for example. And down here I say fhserve. And that is basically how you build a hello world application using FastHTML. So you can see we have this hello world here. And that's the basic workflow. So we create the application, we have a route, a basic route, and then we serve the application. Now, a lot of more stuff can be done here. We can add more keyword parameters here, especially when we need a database with classes or with a model, and we're going to have more complicated endpoints, but that's like the basic blueprint. Now, what we can do is, instead of just returning the paragraph, we can return nested structures. We can say fh.titled, for example, and I can specify here a title, my title, followed by some UI elements. So I can say, for example, I want to have a div container, fh_div, and inside of this div container, I want to have a paragraph again. So fh.p, here I want to have my hello world now, and afterwards, maybe I want to have two links. So I can say fha, to define an anchor tag. I can say the text of this is neural9. I can say the link actually, so the href attribute is equal to https://neural9.com. And also I can do internal links. So I can copy this and I can say hello, and the href is actually /hello, which is an endpoint that I need to define in my application here. But you can see the pattern. We have the basic HTML attributes or UI tags that you know, div, p, a, and so on. And we can just use them by saying fh dot, and we can nest them. So I can have a div in a div in a div and so on just by saying fh div and then having these parentheses. And in here, I want to have more stuff. I can define the whole layout using these Python functions here. Or I don't know if they're functions or if they're classes, but with these tags here. And what we do then is we basically, or what we can do now is we can say, I want to have a second endpoint RT here /hello. And I'm going to call this just hello. And here I want to return fh_div. And I want to say fhp. This is the hello page. And then maybe I want to have here an anchor tag, which, gets me to home, so to slash. So I can run this now and we will see in the browser that I can click on hello, I can go back, I can go to neural9. Actually I cannot go to neural9. I think this is because I'm running this in live mode. I think I would have to say live equals false for this to work, because I think I already tried this and this was a problem. There you go. So now it works. But yeah, the basic idea is that I can define these tags and use them. So the interesting thing is that this framework is based on HTMX. Now, I'm not very experienced with HTMX, but it's an open source front-end JavaScript library, which allows us to use Ajax directly in HTML. Because it has some custom attributes. And these custom attributes can be used here as well, and they make it very easy to perform certain operations. But before we get to that, I also want to show you how we can have variables in our URL patterns. For example, I can say here, I want to have a route, and this route should be called Fibonacci, for example, and I want to have a parameter n here as part of the URL pattern. And this parameter here, if I have my Fibonacci function here, is my integer n here. I need to provide a type annotation, a type hint, otherwise it doesn't work. But now what happens here is I get this n value in my URL, and I immediately get it here as an integer parameter. And all I want to do here now is basically I want to say, give me all the Fibonacci numbers up until the nth Fibonacci number. So AB is equal to 0, 1. And then we're going to have this basic iterative approach for placeholder in range. N, numbers append, actually A. We start with A and then we say A, BA is equal to A and A plus B. Does this make sense? Not sure if this makes sense. I think so. And then we're going to say return fh.titled again, and we can say Fibonacci numbers followed by a list. Now, this is the next thing. We can also, of course, use unordered lists and list items and ordered lists, of course, as well. With Python collections or with Python lists. So what we can do here is I can say fh unordered list, ul. And in here I can have a list comprehension where I say fhli, so list item, of number for number in numbers. Now what I need to do to make this possible is I need to use the unpacking operator. So I need to take the list and unpack the elements as arguments to ul, because usually what you would have to do is you would have to say fhul, and then in here you want to do fhli, fhli, and so on. This is how you want to do this, and you don't want to pass a list, so you need to unpack the list to make this possible, which is what we do with this asterisk here. And that should actually already work. So let's give it a try. Let's go and run this. Let's go to slash Fibonacci, and let's pass 10, for example. And then you can see I get 10 Fibonacci numbers. Let's go and do the same thing here with 50. You will see I get 50 Fibonacci numbers. So that's the basic idea here. Yeah, this was now very simple. And what we want to do, let me set this to true again. What we want to do now is we want to introduce a database. We want to introduce a database and a model so that we can do some basic CRUD operations. You can do a to-do list app. You can do whatever you want. I'm just going to go with people here. So I'm going to have a people database with name, age, and job, and also an ID. And then I'm going to show you how we can easily create an application where we have a UI where we see all the people in the database, where we can easily create new people, where we can delete people, and so on. So what we need to do for that is we need to change this app initialization here. I need to say, instead of just getting app and RT, what I'm going to get here now is I'm going to get the people table, and I'm going to get the person class. So app route people person is equal to fh_fast_app, and then I'm going to say here db file. Where do I want to have my database? My database is going to be, let's say, a data/people.db. And what I want to do then is I want to define the fields of a person. So PID is going to be equal to an integer. This is going to be my primary key. This is going to be my identifier. Name is going to be equal to a string. Age is going to be equal to an integer, and job is going to be equal to a string. So as you can see here, I provide arbitrary keyword arguments here with a data with a class or a data type as the value. And then also what I want to do is I want to specify that the primary key pk is equal to PID, to the string PID. And in addition to that, I'm also going to define a render function. A render function defines or specifies how a person will be displayed in my application. So I'm going to say here render equals render underscore person, which is going to be a function that I have to define up here. So I'm going to say def render person. We're going to pass a person to this function here. And what this function is going to do is it's going to define a PID. The PID is going to be a formatted string, person dash, I'm going to say here person.pid. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say that the individual person should be displayed as a list item, and it should contain the information like name, age, job, and so on, and it should have a delete button. So I want to have a delete button for the person. So I'm going to define that delete button first. I'm going to say delete button is equal to FH, it should be a link, it should be an anchor tag that says delete, and it should have a certain target endpoint, so to execute the function. And this is now the interesting thing, because what we're going to do here is we're going to use HTMX. I'm going to specify a couple of attributes which are going to automatically do certain things for me. So I'm going to say here hx underscore delete is equal to slash delete. This needs to be a string, slash delete. And then here I'm going to say person.pid. I actually need to specify that this is an f string. And of course I need to define this endpoint, so I'm going to have to create a route down here, but hx_delete now automatically associates this with a delete action. So it's going to take the proper action for a deletion. And then I'm also going to say here, this is now interesting, hx_swap. So I'm going to swap the following thing here, which is the outer HTML of this list item. So this is now just the anchor tag. The anchor tag is going to be inside a list item, which we're going to return here in a second. And this list item will have a certain ID, which is what I'm going to specify here now. The target ID is going to be the PID. So think about it that way. I'm going to return a list item here in a second, and this list item will have this PID. Now, this is not the exact same thing as the PID itself. It's a string, an identifier for the UI element, the list item. And what I'm doing here is I'm saying with this delete button, send a delete request to /delete person ID, and then swap the outer HTML of the target that has this ID. And the target that has this ID is going to be the list item. In other words, it means we're going to remove the list item from the HTML tree. So let's see what this looks like. We're going to say here return fh.li, and we're going to say, first of all, I want to have the delete button, then I want to have a formatted string with the information about the person, so person.pid, name is equal to person name, age is equal to person age, job is equal to person job. Yeah, that's just a text. And then we're going to say, this is now important, the ID of this list item is going to be the PID. This is important because this thing now, this individual list item has the ID PID, and it's the thing that is going to swap or remove the outer HTML, or it's the thing that's going to get the outer HTML removed when we click the delete button, which is inside of it. So it's going to remove the whole UI element. Now let us define the delete function down here. We're going to say RT. The route here is going to be /delete and here now we need to specify PID as a parameter similar to the end here for the Fibonacci. And we're going to specify explicitly methods is equal to a list delete. And the function itself is quite simple. We're going to say here def delete person. Now, one thing that's interesting to know is that I'm not sure why this is the case. I think this is just the way they programmed this framework. But if you call the function delete, if you just say def delete, you don't need to specify methods delete because it automatically does that. Otherwise, if you choose a different name like remove person or delete person, you need to specify explicitly methods equals delete, the same way it's done in Flask. So delete person, and here we're going to say now people.delete PID, which is going to be, of course, passed here as a parameter again. So that's a deletion, and we're not going to be able to use that yet because we don't have an endpoint that shows all the data. So before we define the most important endpoint, which is going to list all the people, we want to define one more, which is going to create a new person. It's also going to be quite simple. This is going to be an endpoint RT, which is going to have just /people, but the methods here is going to be equal to post. So /people methods equals post. And the method is going to be called, or the function is going to be called create person. And we're going to pass here a person object as a post request here. And we're just going to say return people.insert and then person. So that's the create function. And now the final function is going to be the one that actually displays all the which now displays all the people. And the interesting thing about this is I can define the same route with a different method if I explicitly do it. So if I have now this one here explicitly set to post, I can create another endpoint here. When I explicitly set it to get, I can use 2 times the same route here with a different function. So I can say here def list people, and I can actually use the exact same route because here I have post and here I have get. And what I can do here now is I can say I want to have a create form. The idea is I want to have a page where at the top I can add information for a new person, create it, and then it should be dynamically with JavaScript, so to say, or with Ajax in this case, it should be dynamically added to the list. And it should be added to the list, and it should be also dynamically removed from the list when I click on delete. So the idea is I want to have a create form, and this create form is going to be equal to an FH form element here, and it's going to contain an FH group. And this FH group contains input elements, and the input elements are obviously going to be name, age, job. So what I want to have here is I want to define a placeholder is going to be equal to new person name. The name of this is going to be name. Now this is important because name is what we use in the backend to get the information. So name should be actually name, and age should be age, and job name or job should be job. For the other two, where name should be job and name should be age. That's what I wanted to say. And then let me just indent this properly here. So we want to change this here to age and this here to job. These should be the class attributes, so age and job. Here now we're going to specify that the type of this is number. So we want to have a different type of input. We don't want to have an input type text, which is the default. And then we want to have an FH button, which says create. Now, this is now just the UI elements. And again, we're going to use HTMX attributes here to make this quite easily easy for us to create new people. How do we do that? We say hx_post is equal to /people, which means that whatever we have here in this form will be posted to /people. And also for the dynamic element, what we're going to do is we're going to say that the target ID of, or actually we're going to say first of all, hx_swap is going to be before end. And the target ID for this is going to be people list. Now we don't have a people list yet. Again, the idea is that we're going to return a people list. So I'm going to return here a div box. In this div box, I want to have a cart. And here I want to have a list of, an unordered list of people. How do I do that? I say UL, I use again the asterisk. I unpack everything in the people database. So I just call the people, I just call people here, which is this thing here, the object. So I get all the people from the database, I unpack them, and this here I assign an ID people list to. and then I can just say the header of this is the create form. So what this does now is I have a div, I have a card in there, I have a list with all the people that has the ID people list, and I have a header at the top. I have as a header the create form, and what the create form does is it takes the information, it posts everything to the people endpoint, which is down here, the create person function, and then it swaps. In this case, swap means it appends the new element to the people list before the end. So it's going to just append it in the end. And that is what we need to do in order to have a basic CRUD application here. So I'm going to run this. I'm going to go to /people. And here now you can see I have new person name, new person age, new person job. Let's say we have Mike, 30 years old. He's a programmer. What I can do now is I can click on create. You can see I get a new element here. I can say Lisa is 40. She's a clerk. Create, and I can reload the page. You can see the data is still here. And now I can also delete and reload, and you can see it dynamically does everything for me. And I can do that here, of course, multiple times. There you go. So this is how you can easily build web applications using FastHTML without having to code any HTML, JavaScript, or CSS, just with pure Python. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting the like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.